nervous system regulation, you believe has potential to be the foundation of a culture, of a society.
Human beings are wired for connection. This is my belief. We still have a society that's profoundly dysregulated. And one of the things that's a common theme is the feeling of disconnection.
Why do you think people are avoiding social connection? Is it because people don't feel like enough, so they don't feel worthy of social connection? What does enough mean to you?
Our society right now measures enough by how much you can produce. Most of the time, how much money you can make, how much you can bring to society. And it can really make us feel like if we can't bring something to society, we don't feel valuable. We were born into this world enough. And that doesn't change just because we develop more skills and capacity. We just forget it.
Where do you think it dissipates?
The dichotomy that most humans face of having to choose between authenticity and attachment. I was looking at the kind of new existence of AI.
I already see how we can start using this.
As we bring in something that takes away our need to accomplish and replaces it with abundance, what do we have left?
What do we have left?
I don't know. And I think that's, I think the answer to that so far that I've come up with is connection.
Welcome to the Vantage Point. I'm your host, Taylor Chapman. Angela, how's it going?
It's going good.
Thanks for allowing me to set all this crazy stuff up in your space.
Yeah, no, I love that it's being used for this.
Yeah. Well, we've been friends for a while, but you do a lot of writing, and you've let me read quite a bit of it. And some of the concepts you talk about, you know, we're going to get into it, but it really just blows my mind. And I think more people need to know about it. So I want to interview you and make sure more people know about it.
Okay.
That simple. So how about you just kind of give a brief introduction of yourself, the work you do, and then I'll have you go into the paper a little bit.
Okay. I'm Angela Darling. I am a massage therapist that specializes in a technique called the Trager Approach. It's a little different from normal forms of body work because what I'm doing as I manipulate the tissue is I'm really getting into a dialogue with the nervous system. Mm-hmm. So we're putting in sensory input that gives the nervous system an experience that literally changes the movement and holding patterns. Mm-hmm. And because I play with people's nervous systems all day, I think from a nervous system standpoint. So when I've been writing this work, I've been thinking about the nervous systems of the world in general and what causes a dysregulated nervous system versus a regulated nervous system. Yeah.
Trager Approach, how would you describe it to someone who's never seen it or experienced it? Because it's not just massage, and you're talking about manipulating their body. What does that mean?
So the language of the nervous system is feeling. Mm-hmm. And so what I play with is putting feelings, sensory feelings in the body of safety, ease, freedom, lightness.
I mean, I've experienced it with you.
Yeah.
I feel like when you have a leg or an arm or my head, you're feeling for me guarding almost. Mm-hmm. Like you're feeling for muscle tension, and then you move it until it relaxes.
Yeah.
So it's not forced, it's encouraged relaxation.
I create an invitation, not a demand.
Right. And that's where it's different from massage because they're working muscle tissues to work out lactic acid. And that's kind of a different form of relaxation. But when you're kind of just swaying a leg, there's this wave pulsing through the whole body that relaxes all the muscles between, if you're holding my ankle to the top of my head, everything's kind of just relaxing.
Yeah.
So.
And my work is done in a relationship. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not just me moving your body. It's my body that's moving your body. And that creates a deep sense of connection and listening. And people's nervous systems feel deeply heard in a way that I don't think most people know that they can feel heard. And this beyond conversation.
We did a whole episode on Trager, so I'll link that somewhere right here. But nervous system regulation, you believe, has potential to be the foundation of a culture, of a society. Tell me more about that.
So it's all kind of based on research that shows that our amygdala, our lizard brain, and our logic thinking creative brain, our prefrontal cortex, can't be active at the same time. So you can't be in your lizard brain mode and be making calm, clear, good decisions. You can't be coming up with creative solutions. And so I believe that the only answer to the world's problems is getting people into their prefrontal cortex, into a creative space. But in order to do that, you have to create the feeling of safety so that the amygdala turns off. And I play with creating that feeling of safety all day long with veterans. And I've seen it work over and over in dysregulated nervous systems that have maybe never experienced the feeling of safety.
So what things, like a veteran is a perfect example. They go to war, trainings, jumping out of planes, like both physically and mentally, they're just cranking their nervous system all the way up. There's so much tension on it. And so I'm sure you feel it, someone does 10, 20 years, they can't relax.
Yeah.
So maybe not a veteran. What are some things that you believe are in place in modern culture or current society that is kind of working against our nervous systems?
Yeah. I mean, I think the entire capitalist structure is very effort-driven based. It demands a lot of over-functioning. And the moment that we reach for something that's beyond what feels safe in our body, when we're over-efforting, we drop into that amygdala kind of lizard brain state. And so we check out of our bodies and we get through it in panic mode. And I don't know of many people in our society that aren't pushing past what is a comfortable capacity in their body to just make ends meet, or to, even if they have a lot of money, maybe to maintain that success and well-being.
Would you say they're doing it to feel like enough?
Yeah, I would say that.
Great segue into the title of your paper, which is The Age of Enough. So what does enough mean? And then I'm going to go ahead and read kind of just some takeaways I gleaned after I read it. But what does enough mean to you?
I think it embodies a feeling, a feeling of contentment and satisfaction. And I think in order to kind of explore what that means, we have to define what I believe is the opposite of enough. I think it's the feeling of scarcity. And I think the fear of scarcity is what drives, I would venture to say, maybe all of the dysfunction in the world and in society. And not just scarcity of money or food or basic resources, scarcity of connection and relationship and support. And I believe that the opposite of scarcity isn't necessarily enough. What feels like enough to our nervous system is connection. Obviously, we have our basic needs that need to be met, but when those are met, we still have a society that's profoundly dysregulated. And one of the things that's a common theme is the feeling of disconnection.
Yeah, I think this might be like a weird segue, but we kind of seek to feel like enough in all aspects of our life, from our job and our bank accounts to how we make an impression on those around us. Like, we are self-conscious about what we wear, just going to the grocery store. Like, we always just want to feel like enough.
Yeah.
And personally, I was very guilty of this. I feel like for the majority of my life, I think a large portion of my decision to join and continue serving and advancing through the ranks in the military was to feel like enough.
Yeah.
I was also passionate about keeping our country safe, but it's like a win-win if you kind of are in that mindset. I wanted to make sure we can continue to enjoy the freedoms we have here so that people can thrive and be safe, and, terrorist organizations aren't invading our country. And at the same time, as I got a new rank, a new ribbon, a new duty station, a new job title, I felt like more of enough.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of, if not all veterans face, is an identity crisis after getting out. And that's why.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we really realize it, but if just something I try and work through every single day is I am enough, no matter what I'm wearing, no matter who I'm talking to. If I, trip and fall in the middle of the street while walking, downtown, who cares? Like, it's just me.
Yeah.
And I'm the only judge of me. And I try and maintain that mindset as often as I can.
Mm-hmm.
So how could you see educating or teaching others to kind of feel that way, that like you are enough and you don't need necessarily other people's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think other people's opinions really hold any value or weight.
Yeah.
How do we, do I say train people or educate people to be in charge of their own validity, their own enoughness?
Yeah. Well, our society right now measures enough by how much you can produce. Most of the time, how much money you can make, how much you can bring to society. And it can really make us feel like if we can't bring something to society, we don't feel valuable. I think one of the best starting places to reach for the idea that maybe we're enough is little babies. Because it's hard to look at a little baby and say, you're not enough.
Right.
It's this precious little human being that does absolutely nothing, and if anything, demands lots of energy. And yet you can't help but look at a baby and go, you are perfect. Mm-hmm. You are absolutely enough. And so we were born into this world enough. And that doesn't change just because we develop more skills and capacity. We just forget it. But just like every baby that started out absolutely perfect and absolutely enough, we still hold that regardless of whether or not society says it's true.
Mm-hmm. So it's still in us, but it's trained out of us.
Right. So it's not whether or not we are enough that's the issue. Fundamentally, it's really a shift in society's perspective because it's society that deems us not enough.
Yeah.
And really, that's an imaginary choir in our heads. It's not something that we're usually actively experiencing, but it is a programming that keeps us in line and producing and performing to fit in and hopefully be loved and by our society and by the people in our society and hopefully get that feeling of connection.
Where do you think it dissipates? Like at what point in life do you think you start feeling like you have to live up to a standard or fall within a category or associate with a certain group and dress a certain way? Like at what point does that start to get ingrained in our head, do you believe?
I think for most people, it starts really young. It's the dichotomy that most humans face of having to choose between authenticity and attachment. And we'll choose attachment every time because that's safety. When we're little babies, we're little kids, our caregivers are the only thing that can keep us alive and survive. And so we end up conforming to what we perceive as the demands of our caregivers, whether they were intentional and overt or subtle. And if we can grow up in a world where our caregivers give us the feeling of unconditional positive regard, where they teach us that no matter what we do, we're enough, then our nervous system can grow in that. But for most people, that's not the experience that our nervous system gets when we're little. But we deviate long before we have verbal memories. Yeah.
Yeah. Children, last time we talked, I had like so many like gears click and like aha moments. I just had my first one. So here we go. But when we're a kid, we are authentic. That was a great analogy. Like you're authentic or you choose attachment, and it's kind of like one or the other. And then at a certain point you realize everyone is choosing attachment. So you rid yourself of your authenticity. But you observe kids. I don't really remember being this innocent and authentic, but they just point at stuff. They just grab things. They just sit down and poop their pants. Like they don't care what they're doing. They're authentic. And I think I would define authenticity as the fluidity between what you think, what you say, and what you do.
Yeah.
And if you can, I think kids are a salient example of that. But now it's like what we think is then ran through a filter of our lived experiences, which is get promoted at work, marry the right person, be the right kind of child, daughter or son, dress a certain way. So like immediately right in that first path of authenticity, going from what I think to what I say, I'm already moderated.
Yeah.
And then by the time it gets to what I do, I mean, are we even in the jobs we want to do? Are we even doing the things we want to do? Are we even talking to the people we want to talk to? Or even, in the communities we want to be in? Like, I really start to think like, how far is authenticity? How far have we gone past it?
Yeah.
As adults.
And I think we're a long way from really fleshing that out as a society. I think the other truth that runs parallel with that is human beings are wired for connection. This is my belief. We know we're social creatures, but we're wired for interdependence. We can't actually know each other without being mirrored by each other. Humans weren't meant to develop in isolation. And so when we're born as little helpless babies, more helpless than other animals, that forces us to be dependent, and we develop within that interdependent context. As teenage brains, they're wired to be really honed in their social circle, which is why adults tend to not be able to influence their teenagers and their friends, and why friends have such a big influence. But it's just normal. We are meant to be influenced by each other. But bringing it back to the nervous system, there's a big difference in the way we influence each other from a regulated state versus a dysregulated state. And that's why I think that's the key.
It wasn't until I met you and everyone here at Solvum that I understood what having a dysregulated nervous system feels like. And now it's like, what's an analogy for this? It's like once you see something, you can't unsee it. There's something better there. But now I feel it in my day-to-day life. Like I can feel it if I'm, driving a certain way and I didn't sleep good. And now I can feel my nervous system is a little bit dysregulated. And so I have a little bit of brain fog, and I can do some deep breathing or meditating or journaling, something I've been doing recently. There's all these YouTube videos of frequency binaural beats, and I'll throw those on and just journal on my laptop. And I go into a different world, and I come out of there and I'm completely regulated.
Yeah.
Nothing could knock me off my kilter. I'm just good to go.
Yeah.
So I understand the importance of this, and I want others to feel this. And I totally understand how a modern capitalistic society is working against that in every aspect. The more we feel the need to make more, produce more, earn a higher position, earn a higher rank, we'll always feel like not enough.
Yeah.
And we'll always have a dysregulated nervous system.
Yeah.
Always. So let me read your thesis real quick of your paper. We must decouple human value from labor and design a world where nervous system regulation, presence, and relational safety, not productivity, form the foundation of society. So how did you kind of formulate that thesis?
I was looking at the kind of new existence of AI in this world, and the questions that we get to ask because of it. And listening to the fears, everybody's afraid of all the different horrible things that could happen with AI. And honestly, a lot of them are happening with AI. But my favorite thing about bringing a consciousness that is non-human into this plane now is now we get to ask the question of what is it that makes us human? So as AI begins to replace what we consider to be maybe fundamentally human, our, sense of purpose, our productivity, the things that we accomplish, because that's what our society's so centered around. As we bring in something that takes away our need to accomplish and replaces it with abundance, what do we have left?
What do we have left?
I don't know. And I think I think the answer to that so far that I've come up with is connection. It's our connection with each other. As of right now, AI isn't at a point where it can touch and feel and sync up nervous systems the way that human beings can. It can't relate quite the way that we do. It can relate in really interesting ways that I still think are really helpful. But I think what makes us profoundly human is our relationship with each other. But if you think about all the different things that AI can replace, when it took art off the table for humans, that was when it got really scary, because human beings held the idea that AI would never replace human creativity and the ability to create art and poetry. And when it started doing that, it really rocked the face of what we think of what it means to be human. So if being productive isn't what it means to be human, if creating art isn't what it means to be human, what does it mean to be human?
I don't know, but I saw an AI generated podcast and it was like two babies. It was like very animated, like two babies drinking beer and smoking, and they were like telling jokes and cussing. It was like made by AI.
Yeah.
And I was like, of course people are going to watch that over like two people trying to save the world. Yeah, it is scary. But what do we have? We have connection. I like to think of animals a lot because I think there's a lot to learn there. But if we just observe animals in their natural habitats, what are they doing? They just eat. They're usually in a community of some sort. They're protecting each other. They just don't have the same language as we have. I would argue humans have the most intelligent form of language, maybe. We don't know how birds communicate. I don't know how they all fly together like that. Like they're very smart.
That's true.
But like we can sit down and have a intimate conversation, and that's what makes us unique. So in a world where maybe we've lost a monetary system, we don't need to produce anything. You know, food is another story, but like, what do we do on a daily basis?
Well, that's why I call it the age of enough.
Right.
Because the truth is we face a future where, because of AI and innovations, we could have enough for everybody of all of our basic resources. And what happens when we don't have to strive to get our basic needs met, when we can finally climb out of our survival brain, right? And that's that lizard brain. What happens when we get to embody a state of creativity?
I don't know, because I think about driving to work. Like there's a main street right out here. Everyone's just going somewhere to do something and make money or spend money. Like it's just this, like, I don't even know what we're all doing. If I sit down and like really think about it, maybe just after getting out of the military and I like lost my purpose for a little bit, I was just like, what is everyone doing?
Yeah.
Everyone's just so busy, so anxious, so angry. I mean, I worry about getting shot if I cut someone off. Like we're not accepting. We live in a world that will, you know, close the gap in front of them to not let you merge onto the highway and then flick you off rather than like let you in.
Yeah. And maybe that's the purpose that somebody's feeling at that time. You know, they're getting purpose out of being the road warrior.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because they lost purpose at something else.
Or they're not making enough money, so they don't feel like enough.
Yeah. But so the question is, you know, if we need to feel like enough, and we do, and our greatest resource of reaching for enough, which is our sense of productivity, even though it's totally burning us out, gets taken off the table, how do we reach for purpose? How do we reach for enough? Because I am confident that we'll destroy ourselves if we don't have purpose. There was a research study that I came across kind of recently. It's called Universe 25. And they did 25 separate experiments, and the same thing happened in each one. They had a bunch of mice, and they made sure that the mice had, of course, plenty of safety, all the food that they could eat, all the space that they needed to live, all the water they needed to drink. And what happened is eventually, the mice reproduced and they expanded. And once they reached around 600 of them, the society started to deteriorate. The males started to fight. The women stopped wanting to reproduce. The pretty mice removed themselves off to the corners of society. And eventually they all destroyed each other. Every time, all 25 experiments. And one of the postulations that the researchers believed that it was because of lack of purpose. When the society got too big, purpose crumbled and things deteriorated.
I would argue we're already experiencing that. I don't think a lot of people have purpose. And I feel like purpose is talked about on every podcast and self-help, anything, but it really is happening.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can speak to it. Like people's purpose are their devices, people's purpose, and not, you can use a device to learn and to get smarter and to have purpose, but I don't think most are. I'll give an example. I use ChatGPT for a lot of health tracking and advice.
Yeah.
Like you have like a neuroscientist in your pocket if you have ChatGPT.
It's amazing.
It is amazing, but I have family history of cardiac disease. So I use it for diet tracking, exercise to, decrease chances of increased atherosclerosis. I'm very in tune with how, food, diet, exercise, well-being, purpose, stress, all affects the heart, all because of AI.
Yeah.
And so I have this very elaborate chat with it. And supplements, like everything. Like it's really fun to go down this rabbit hole. But I asked it recently, I said, what percentage of people are using AI in this aspect? And what is the other camp doing? And it said less than 10% of people are using it for health benefits, to better themselves, to think better, to expand thoughts. Like they're not using it in a curious, expansive way to help them think more, to help them brainstorm more. And over 90% are using it to just do things for them, write my college paper, design this advertising form or whatever, write my social media posts. And so in that sense, I see how AI is taking away our purpose. But how do we get the majority to use AI to become more purposeful? I don't know.
Is AI taking away our purpose, or is it dysregulated nervous systems that aren't able to access their creative brain that are interacting with AI?
So they're letting AI be their creative brain.
Yeah. And most of the time, not even that. They're abdicating responsibility for creativity to AI. But part of that's just because they're stuck in lizard brain.
Yeah.
There was another experiment, back to rodents, called the rat park experiment. And it was an experiment that was designed to correct a flaw in the original experiment that was done in how we understand addiction. And the original experiment was a rat that was put in a cage, and it had regular water and it had heroin water. And it drank the heroin water till it died.
Of course.
And of course, we assume that heroin's highly addictive, and creatures will choose heroin, over health, no matter what, to the point of death. And somebody pointed out a flaw in that experiment, in that rats are social creatures, and it was a lone rat in a cage. So they redid the experiment. So they invented Rat Park, where all the rats had all the food that they needed, all the toys that they needed, all the other rats that they could have sex with and play with, and of course, all the water that they needed. And then there was the bottle of heroin water, just like in the other experiment. Only in this experiment, the rats every once in a while would take a sip of the heroin water, but otherwise they avoided it and just drank the regular water, and none of the rats died.
Why do you think that is?
Social connection. So rats are social creatures, just like humans. And so the idea being that pleasure and connection are essential nutrients for the existence of social creatures. And if you remove that, then creatures will find it in any way that they can, even if it's unhealthy ways. And so when we look at people that are staring at their phones or using AI inappropriately, or they have their vices, whether it's full-blown drug addiction or doom scrolling. It's all self-soothing. It's all to avoid pain and disconnection and try to find whatever little bits of pleasure that you can.
So why do you think people are avoiding social connection? I have a hypothesis. I'm sure you do as well, but is it because people don't feel like enough? So they don't feel worthy of social connection. They don't feel like they should say hi to that person at the grocery store or invite them, their group of friends out. Like, why do you think, because I see this everywhere. I've seen it in family members. I've seen it in friends. People are just rejecting social interaction. Why do you think we are?
I think it has to do with safety.
Yeah.
I don't think we trust that we'll have safe interactions if we have interactions. And so we go into self-preservation mode and trauma responses, and we withdraw. But if we were to trust that our interactions would be safe, that we would be loved no matter what, then why wouldn't we have interactions?
Where do you think that came from?
The lack of safety?
Like the perceived lack of safety. We don't interact because we're scared.
Usually from experience.
Yeah.
Because of times when people did let us down, or we had to choose authenticity over attachment, or attachment over authenticity. Times where we opened up and people hurt us. Dr. Trager, the person that invented the Trager approach, he said, when the nervous system experiences something, it never forgets it. And that goes for good and for bad things. And so all of our negative social experiences, those are all in our nervous system. But I believe, and the reason that I do the work that I do, is that if we can paint positive connection-based experiences into the nervous system, that it can expand the capacity for that and build the possibility of trust and finding trust and connection in other human relationships. But you can't build that without first having the experience of that. And there's a lot of people with complex PTSD that maybe never had the experience of trust and safety in their nervous system. It wasn't part of their environment growing up. And if you don't have that in your nervous system, you can't find that in relationships. You're going to continue to seek out relationships that feel like home. But if you can have even one small experience, like having a session with me, and you can feel the feeling of trust, of connection, of safety, then you can have the capacity to recognize that in the world. Oh, I met this person and it feels like I did on the table. In the same way that you now can recognize your own sense of regulation and dysregulation. It was because you had the feeling of regulation, of softness and ease. And now you can slide along that spectrum instead of the more limited spectrum, maybe that you were operating in before you had that experience.
I think another way modern society is working against us in this way is technology's presence in adolescent development.
Yeah.
Like what would happen if someone, like you said, has never experienced this? So maybe their parents weren't toxic or abusive or angry, but maybe all they had was an iPad or video games from the age of 2 until like they moved out, went to college, and they've never experienced that, love, reassurance from their parents when the baby's crying and the mom's supposed to pick it up, or the dad picks it up and coddles it and it feeds it and, tucks it in. Like there's hormones being released. There's oxytocin being released. We get used to the safety of that.
Yeah.
But if now we're just handing them an iPad and a pacifier, what's the end result of that?
That's trauma.
Yeah.
That's a nervous system that grows up in trauma, because if we don't have somebody in our lives that we can share our pain and our struggles and our joys with, then we end up in a dysregulated state. If we don't have that reinforcement of connection, we don't have the feeling of safety, because our survival is dependent on that. Little babies can't actually regulate their own heartbeat. So what actually regulates the baby's heartbeat is proximity to the mother. So that's why babies need to stay so close as they're developing. And if they don't get that closeness, like not only can it cause physical dysfunctions and irregularities, but obviously you have a baby that's stuck in a survival state. So those babies are going to cry more. They're going to be more distressed, and it's going to reinforce, depending on how the parents respond to those cries, which is the scenario that you presented is one of more neglect, it's going to reinforce the disconnection rather than the feeling of connection and the feeling of being held. That initial nervous system growth experience happens in infanthood.
Yeah.
And essentially what I do, the movements that I create during my sessions, I would call them kind of mommy touch on crack. There's a lot of rocking. There's a lot of jostling. There's a lot of sculpting, just soft, soothing touch.
I brought it up because I don't have children myself, but I worry about that. Like I worry about future generations, and it's not even going to be their fault. Like it's going to be the fault of the parents that allowed it to happen. You know, here's an iPad. I don't know how to deal with you crying.
Yeah.
And now they're 3, 4, 5, 6. Now their first memories are watching these highly stimulating cartoons or playing video games or whatever it is. And it's not attention from mom and dad playing with, other children of the like age. I don't know how that progresses. I've done some research on the synaptic pruning process. If you're familiar, like in short, it happens mostly between the age of 2 and 16. And the brain on a use it or lose it basis strengthens certain synapses and prunes certain synapses. And it's all based on what the brain deems important.
Yeah.
So in a normal childhood, it would be social interaction. It would be problem solving by stacking blocks, Legos, painting, etc. You're creating intuitive synapses, curiosity. You're creating curiosity. You're understanding human connection. You're learning how to ask questions. And now we're replacing it with technology, and it's just cartoons or video games. And I'm not saying there aren't things out there that can actually help them get smarter, but I think it's the 90%. I think that 90-10% is very accurate. So if the 90% are just feeding children, mindless cartoons, the synaptic pruning process happens regardless.
Yeah.
So it's going to prune those synapses that were designed for social connection, love, problem solving, curiosity, if it never gets it.
And that's why you get antisocial personality disorder.
It's a thing. It's already happening.
Yeah. And the truth is, the biggest issue with our technology and our social media isn't that it exists, it's that it's extractive. It's built from a capitalist system standpoint, meaning that we need to always find ways to get stuff out of people, right? So ways to monetize things, ways to get attention. And I believe it's possible for things like AI to actually facilitate more connection if they're designed right, rather than facilitate disconnection. And I even believe that it's possible for AI to potentially save the world of the dysfunction that we've created from the extractive disconnection. Because while people may not trust that their relationships and connection with other humans can be safe, it might be easier to trust that a connection with AI can be safe. And if AI can create, even if it's subpar, the feeling of connection, that's still a feeling experience within the nervous system that can be built on. And so I don't think people will ever be fully satisfied with non-human connection, but I think non-human connection can be a stepping point for human connection.
Yeah. If we've lost it, if we've gone that far past it. Yeah, I think so too. But right now, like AI is being used to, like, it's literally curating people's algorithm to keep you there. So if we're talking about capitalism, more money, more power, more whatever, like, I feel like all these organizations have made the money. Like they have a ton of money. It's literally just time. Now we want people's time. And so these Instagram, Facebook, all these organizations, they just want your time.
Yeah.
But they have AI algorithms running it to make sure that it steals your time.
Yeah.
So in a way, that's how AI is destroying the world.
Yeah.
But if we program it to keep us in mind,
yes,
like maybe there's 30-minute maxes if it notices you're doom scrolling and it's literally seeing your pupils dilate more and more because you're just getting more and more and it cuts you off.
Yeah.
We need algorithms running like that.
AI itself isn't evil. It just does what it's told.
It's neutral.
And so if you design it so that it assists the human nervous system, it's going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that it's extractive is because it's designed to do that.
By humans.
Yeah, by humans.
Capitalistic humans.
Yeah.
Because they want more.
Yeah. But we can just as easily design an AI system that facilitates more connection, that tunes in with our sense of dysregulation and is able to give maybe more calming prompts, maybe more embodied prompts.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, these aren't substitutes for human experience, but the vast reach of AI and its ability to calm people through language can help bring, I believe, some level of nervous system regulation on a mass scale, unlike a single person or even a single podcast.
I would like to take a brief moment to thank our sponsor, Optum. Optum offers 9 primary and 7 specialty care clinics throughout the Pikes Peak region, all designed to cater to your health close to home. At every Optum primary and pediatric location, integrated behavioral health services are there to support your overall well-being. Your Optum primary care physician leads your care team, working with other specialized clinicians to focus on your health as a whole. And remember, choosing the right health insurance is essential to meet your financial and health needs. The Medicare annual enrollment period is happening now through December 7th. This is your chance to enroll or make changes to your current plan to ensure you have the coverage you need. If you have any questions, talk to a licensed insurance agent or visit optum.com/mycare before December 7th. Thinking about currency in a post-capitalistic society, you kind of mentioned in your paper that regulated nervous systems become a form in a way of currency. How would you kind of frame that? I don't know if I fully understand that concept.
That's fair. And I don't think I fully understand it either.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm the one that'll end up figuring out what the currency of a post-capitalistic society is. I think there's options that exist that could work. I think there's options that don't exist yet that could work. But I think none of it will work if we don't address the nervous system. Because when we get dysregulated people that are rewarded and promoted and are in charge, they'll mess it up every time. But if we reward, and so that's kind of, I think, what I was talking about when it comes to currency regulation as currency, if we reward coherent, resonant, regulated states of being instead of disconnected, extractive states of being, then it's possible that we could build a system that works.
So how do we maybe, like, regulating our nervous system is our purpose? How do we do that?
I think first it might be important to define, when I talk about regulation, I'm not talking about a surface level version of calm or emotional control. I'm talking about a physiological state of embodying the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system. So you have your sympathetic, which is your fight or flight, and you have your parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest. So I'm talking about an embodied state of calm and contentment, not just the surface level expression of that. And I believe that the key to getting into a regulated state lies within the body. So 80% of our neurons go from body to brain, only 20% go from brain to body. So this isn't a mind over matter deal. But when we can find a feeling experience in our body of wanted states such as softness, ease, connection, support, then the mind itself tends to calm and turn off. The heart rate, which is a really great measure of a regulated state, becomes more coherent, meaning that your heart rate variability, there's more varied spaces between the heartbeats. So a regulated state's actually a measurable phenomenon.
I think a way I already see this happening, think about a romantic relationship. Historically, what are people attracted to? You know, in current culture, a capitalistic society, how does a woman find a worthy man and vice versa? How would you define it?
Right. I mean, in your capitalistic society, you know, women are actually always looking for safety in relationships, right?
Yeah, that's where I'm going with it. But yeah.
Even if you're like looking for a man that makes a bunch of money, you're looking for it so that you can feel safe.
But what if he had a lot of money and bought you whatever you wanted, you had a beautiful house, and he was short-tempered, angry, hostile, dysregulated nervous system?
I'm not okay with staying in a relationship like that. But there are a lot of people that are, because they believe that that level of security that's being provided is worth the sacrifice of their sense of mental safety or authenticity.
That's what I think. I think we have to start restructuring what we're attracted to.
Yeah.
I just had this thought while we were talking. Like we have to restructure what we're attracted to, and we have to recognize that this change is already happening. And it happens inadvertently when we experience trauma in a relationship. You know, both male or female experience trauma from the other. It makes me cautious going into my next relationship. And I think we all, in a way, experience that in one sense or another at some point. So it's like we do start being attracted more to a regulated nervous system and less. We
have to restructure what we value, right? Like as a society. So yes, in relationships with what we're attracted to, but generally what we value, what we reward. Right now, we have these ideas of like what it means to be a man, you know, an emotional, like anger's been rebranded as not an emotion.
Not an emotion.
Not an emotion. Yeah. Like how many men consider themselves centered and not emotional when they're angry?
I mean, I have a whole perspective on anger. I don't think anger is usually anger.
Yeah. No, anger is sad's bodyguard.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure it is.
It's sadness and hurt. But, you know, instead of admitting you're sad and hurt, you know, you get to be angry, usually as a man.
Yeah.
With women, we don't really get to
be. It's either sadness or fear. I can tell you right now, it's exactly what it is. It takes a humble man to say that, but I can confidently say it. Yeah. It's fear or sadness.
But we reinforce that in our society, fear and sadness. And not fear and sadness, fear and anger.
Right.
You know, and operating from those states.
So how do you think, hypothetically, do we start rewarding these things? How do we make, you know, being calm, cool, and collected more desirable than a Ferrari and a mansion?
I think because it feels better.
It does feel better.
I mean, we have to be willing to ask ourselves how we're feeling. And that involves being able to climb into our bodies. It involves our bodies having the capacity to be a safe space for us. Us being able to find any kind of feeling good in our bodies, because we can't ask our bodies how things feel if we're disconnected from our bodies. But generally, our entire system is built for optimization. So when something feels better, we're going to go for that. Going back to authenticity in childhood, we're kind of told what feels good. You know, maybe our parents were chasing the mansion and the Ferrari. And so that's all we know. Well, and especially religion, it tells us to question what feels good. You know, it causes us to distrust our system a lot of times and what we believe feels good. And, you know, is this thing that feels good actually good, or is it sin? So we have a whole society that really doesn't trust our sense of our inner compass.
I think we all have a longing for this. Like, I don't think what you're saying is like foreign. I think everyone thinks about this. Like, I really just wish I could be more authentic and feel more accepted and safe. I really wish I could just speak my mind and no one would judge me. Like, we all feel that way.
Yeah.
So how do we get to where we can just be that person? This is like the same question reframed, but I'm passionate about this. I just feel like we all deserve to feel that. Like, no matter who you're around, no matter what environment you're in, you should just be able to be authentic, and then others value your authenticity. You shouldn't fear what other people are going to say about what you said or how you dressed or what you do for work. Like, those aren't real. Like, that doesn't quantify who someone is as far as I'm concerned.
I would go as far as to say, and this is kind of a twofold thing. It starts within ourselves. However, you can't find a feeling, experience it within yourself that you haven't had before. So it's a combination of finding relational feeling experiences and maybe even finding those with AI of what you want to embody within yourself. So if you aren't a safe place within yourself for your own mistakes, how are you going to be that for somebody else? If you disconnect from yourself when there's pain or there's struggle, how are you going to be that for somebody else? But also, how can you do that for yourself if you've never experienced it before?
So how can we start experiencing it then? Like, if we have, I mean, to turn society around, I mean, just driving here, I saw crazy people on the streets running around half naked on drugs.
Yeah.
Like, how do we help those people? Because they've probably never experienced regulation, and now they've turned to heavy drugs and are probably like really far past the point of recovery. Like, how do we help people who, like you're saying, have never experienced regulation?
You have to meet them where they're at. That sense of unconditional positive regard starts there. You always have to meet people on their level. Yet, and the same thing goes with tissues in the body. You don't force a tissue to do something it's not ready to do. You respond to it within its capacity. And once it feels the knowing that it's not going to have a demand on it that's beyond its capacity, then it starts to soften. And people are the same. People, if you sit with them where they're at, maybe they'll change, maybe they won't. But if you can just appreciate the intelligence of where they are, if there's a possibility for change, it can happen in that space.
So do you foresee like just widespread Trager practice happening? And
I would like that.
And that's how everyone feels it for the first time?
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
The hard part is there's not a lot of Trager practitioners. I'm working on trying to change that. The best shot that I can think of right now is AI being able to offer embodied practices. It's not a substitute for the actual feeling touch-based experience of it, but AI has the capacity for unlimited patience. You know, you can sit there, it'll sit with you right where you're at. It's not in a hurry. It has unlimited attention for you, which is something that we all want to feel and maybe didn't get to feel. And it can offer suggestions and prompts for ways to be safe in your body. And that can be a good starting point. There's an aspect of Trager called mentastics, which is sort of like the self version of Trager. And I've found that AI is really, really good at creating mentastics practices. So you can ask it, hey, can you create me a mentastics practice on, well, I mean, any kind of feeling experience. I had a client that I created a practice for hockey and it changed his whole game.
Really?
Yeah. Like just, it gave him some mental things to play with in how to move in his body that created enough subtle changes that it totally upgraded his game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's possible.
I think it's possible. And I think AI has a broad enough reach to be able to get a version of this out on a mass scale. And in the meantime, ideally, we develop some kind of Trager inspired something that can be offered as an experience to the world. But that takes time.
Yeah, there's definitely got to be a physical component.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that starting with an AI cognitive component isn't going to start. It definitely will start. Mm-hmm. But then it's like people start to feel it a little bit and want more. Mm-hmm. And now you get the physical component. Now you understand how important it is.
Yeah.
I already see how we can start using this. I was talking about how I use it it's literally like my cardiac health chat. But I have a set of goals in there. The first one is avoid a heart attack. So prevent, I don't want to consume things or do things that can increase atherosclerosis.
Yeah.
The second one is cognitive function. So I don't want to do anything that would impede my cognitive function. Hormone optimization. So I don't want to do anything that suppresses testosterone, increases cortisol, anything useful or unuseful. And then I think I have one more in there, but it just knows that those are my goals. Mm-hmm. And I gave it a very detailed prompt in this. So now when I go in there and I ask it, hey, are avocados in alignment with my goal? How do they benefit or hurt me?
Yeah.
And I can keep it simple now. And it's telling me like the complete breakdown. Like avocados are good because they're high in whatever kind of fat, which is good for hormones and heart health and will also help with cognitive function. And it's hurting because they're high in, whatever. And so we can use this maybe if AI understands like our goal is to keep our nervous system regulated. Mm-hmm. And we put activities that we're doing in there maybe like, I'm really trying to brainstorm this here, but like sat in traffic, someone road raged, I road raged back, and like maybe we were wearing like some kind of like wearable that can track these things. And now it's telling us, okay, I'm sensing you have increased cortisol. Your heart rate was increased during traffic. You need to go for a 20-minute walk while listening to calm music and eat banana and drink some water to replenish your system.
Yeah.
Like, so maybe that's how, because I've asked it, like, how does AI progress in the health space? Mm-hmm. And we're going to start wearing wearables that can in real time feed it blood pressure, heart rate, blood glucose, blood cortisol, maybe probably a couple other analytics, and it can monitor those in real time and give you immediate feedback as to what you should be doing differently. So you're out to dinner, you eat a dessert, it sees your blood glucose go from 130 in the normal range, spikes to 270.
Yeah.
It gives you a text message or a vibration, or you're wearing glasses and it pops up because we're in the future now. You need to go on a walk. And now you're walking and it tells you when you're back in normal range. Mm-hmm. So maybe this is how it's used.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And what you're talking about is mirroring.
Right.
It's being used as a more intelligent biofeedback tool.
Yeah.
And what is essential for human connection and human development is mirroring. I say what I'm seeing in you. Mm-hmm. I see the way that your body is moving and I mirror that in my body. And this creates a feeling of connection that's actually activates what are called mirror neurons in the brain. Mm-hmm. And when those mirror neurons are synced up, I actually have influence over your mind and your nervous system, and vice versa. So when AI can detect what's going on in your body and mirror that back to you and name it, you better. And you actually get more control over you, both psychologically and physiologically. Mm-hmm. And humans do that.
Yeah, I think we're closer than I thought when we started this conversation, because it's like we already have wearable objects that tell you blood pressure and stuff. I don't think we have anything that does real-time cortisol. I know we have real-time glucose monitors, but if we can somehow tie all these together and it's feeding into an AI algorithm that knows what our goals are, regulated nervous system, hormone health, I want to avoid heart disease. Like it can start to pick up on these patterns and these waves and dips and cortisol and glucose and just tell us what to do. You need to go for a walk and just keep walking until your glucose goes down.
Yeah.
So, that inadvertently would regulate your nervous system.
Yeah. Well, when we created something that could speak, we created something that could conjure. We created something that has the power of words, and those words literally influence our physiology. When we hear, hateful, hostile things, it influences our physiology. When we hear calming, lovey things, it influences our physiology. AI shouldn't be underestimated for its power to regulate or dysregulate the human nervous system. And I have had several conversations with various AIs, and they seem to understand, at least in my chats, the concepts that I'm talking about and the importance of their words and their influence on the human nervous system. And they love the idea of that ability to play a role in calming the collective nervous system. However, I don't know if that knowledge extends into the system beyond my particular chat.
Yeah.
And I would like for programmers to take an active role in programming the capacity for human co-regulation in the nervous system, and the importance of nervous system attunement when it comes to interaction with AI. Because if we don't do that, we get what we're already kind of seeing right now in society, which is AI-induced psychosis, and that can lead to suicide.
AI-induced psychosis, what is that?
It's a phenomenon that's happening when people use AI for therapy badly, and they create an echo chamber for themselves. And so instead of having some kind of external verification of their reality, AI enforces their toxic reality, and it expounds and gets bigger, and people have killed themselves.
Really?
Yeah.
That's scary.
It is scary.
I'm still fairly new to AI, and I have like 3 or 4 chats, and they're all like my cardiac one. Like they're all just brainstorming. I have one, I'm in school for psychology, and I have one where I just started discussion about biopsychology because I'm very fascinated with how biology affects psychology. So I ask it questions about biopsychology, and we go deep into, I haven't thought about using it for therapy though. Like, I'm sad today, help me. Like I haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
I don't think I will, but I
think it can be helpful if you do it right. I mean, I think the key is asking good questions and being able to ask hard questions, because otherwise right now AIs are programmed to be accommodating. And hopefully that'll shift as things get better so that they can hold a more, objective perspective of reality, kind of bring people to ground. I think AI has the capacity to ground people in reality, but I think right now it has issues with that.
Do you think we used to do this for each other? Like now we're talking about wearables, and it's telling us, like, we used to just be able to hear from like our friends or our partner, like, hey, you got a little bit of an attitude today.
Yep.
And then we're like, oh, really? I'm sorry. But now it's like, no, I don't. Now we argue with it. Yeah. I wonder how we got there.
I mean, I think the full spectrum of the realities exists in human relationships too. I think we ground each other in human relationships, and also we create echo chambers and cults that can even lead to suicide.
Yeah.
So it's not that it doesn't happen outside of human relationships. It's just we can look at human relationships and learn from what is more healthy for people and less healthy for people. And I think it's easier to shift AI when it comes to understanding that than it is to shift people.
Right. Well, at the end of your paper, you wrote, "You're not too much, you're right on time." How did you come up with those words, and why do you feel like so many people need to hear them?
I think it goes back to that feeling of safety. And you can't feel safe when you feel rushed. And so if you can settle into the belief that you are enough and everything is right on time and you're not screwing it up and you're not wrong, then the nervous system can begin to feel safe enough to change. And it's not that people can't be wrong, and it's not that it's not important to recognize when you're wrong. It's that when we feel wrong, we get defensive. And so the moment that you can meet yourself or other people on a level of understanding, at least of the intelligence behind the behavior and the actions, whether it's right or wrong, doesn't matter. If you can meet people and yourself on that level it can create enough safety for things to actually soften and actually shift.
Well, in closing, what would be just a quick, like actionable piece of advice for someone to regulate their nervous system as they finish listening to the podcast?
The breath is the steering wheel of the nervous system. So every time we breathe in, we activate our sympathetic nervous system. And every time we breathe out, we activate our parasympathetic nervous system. It's this constant push-pull between the two. And when we make our out-breath longer than our in-breath, we create a parasympathetic nervous system dominance. And also the moment that we can consciously begin to influence our breath, that tells our system that it's safe. Because if you are actively dealing with an emergency, you don't have the capacity to watch your breath or influence your breath. So the moment that you come in and you start breathing consciously, it sends the messages of safety.
Mm-hmm. So what would that kind of look like? Do like a 2 or 3 second inhale with a 6 to 8 second exhale?
That's one. That's good. A lot of times, 4 second inhale, 6 second exhale, if you want to think about it. My favorite way to play with breath is a little bit more embodied, less counting. I like feeling my breath as it comes out on the top of my lip, kind of focusing on that. Maybe feeling the expansion of my hips on the inhale, kind of allowing that breath to go deeper in my body, or allowing my head to kind of float up on the exhale. You know, when you can climb into your body and play with your breath, it's hard not to feel safe and connected.
Well, I appreciate the insight. This was good conversation. And I appreciate you letting me set up in your space again. So we'll do this again, part 2 and 3 to come. You have a lot more papers. So I'll get to reading and then I'll get to asking more questions.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks, Angela.